Try this. All right. So let me go to Blackboard. Actually, let me do share screen. And over here, and I don't think this is our class. Let me check. It is not. Let's switch to. To the right year. Cooperate. There we go. Okay, and let me put this in so that you can see how it looks on your side. All right, so the quickest way to see if you got everything done is to go into My Grades. Thinking about it, unless I didn't click it well enough. Why are you not? There we go. Okay, so when you look, you'll see when things are due. And then when you look over here, if you see like a score for like the pre-assessment, then you know it's done, and it should say 12 out of 12. Because no matter what you put, you should get full points. The week 2 assignment, it's going to take me about a week to go through and grade those. So there'll be a little exclamation point saying that you've submitted it. And then once I grade it, then you'll see a score. Same thing with the Sarago check. Yeah, so did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Hey, other questions?
I actually have one about the Sarago.
Uh-huh.
So it only kind of lets you review the material, it looks like, every 12 hours, and we're supposed to have that due by tomorrow.
So let me explain Sarago. Sarago, I set a goal for you to reach level 3. You're not going to get to that for about 2 months.
Okay.
Chapters that we start later on in the semester, you're definitely not going to get to that before the end of the semester. But you can have access to the Sarago for a year from now.
Okay.
And so the level 3, once you get to level 3, you're going to remember those terms for months. So that's the end goal. For the Sarago Check 1, I just want you to sign in and start chapter 1.
Okay, all right, because I'm 55% of the way through, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to have that completed by tomorrow. So, okay, all right.
No, you won't.
Okay.
And Sarago in that way, it's a little confusing. Tell you what, I'm going to move my controls here, and I'm going to go into Sarago and kind of show you what I'm talking about. Okay, when I talk about stuff. So we're click and learn. Okay, it's thinking about it. It's thinking about it. So this is approximately what it looks like when you first come in. And I will tell you right now, Sarago is not going to load chapter 1 first. It's just not.
I noticed that. I think I started playing with it and it set me on chapter 15. I was like, oh, okay. So I have that 55% of the way done too.
So you're ahead of the game on the chapter 15 terms. To them, and they still have not fixed it so that it goes sequentially. I've even tried setting it up that it's going to open by date, and that doesn't help either. So what you need to do is you go into Knowledge Bank, and then you can scroll down and say, oh, look, here's chapter 3 terms. And by the way, this is very old. This is not you guys. There's chapter 4 terms, and you can click on the one that you want. I already figured that out. Or if you have more than one course, okay, like I've got my general micro, and then I have a really old MMBS 111, okay? So you can pick which one you're going to work in. And so then I can say, oh, okay, I want to start general microbiology detailed antimicrobial medications. Or no, I want to learn about respiratory viruses. And you're going, why can't I take that class? So
I was actually wondering that so you do medical microbiology as well, and that's offered every semester?
well, it's a section of the general microbiology, MMBS 250. And that's offered just in the spring.
Ah.
All the medical micro for reasons unknown to me at the time. Obviously, you can see I said this one is from, 4 years ago now. Things have changed a lot. It'll show you what levels you're at. So obviously I have not done a whole lot in here. I was just playing around with it. This shows me what level I'm at. So this upside down triangle, when it says 0.2, says that I've started it. As I move up, it's going to change and it's going to show level 1. After about a week, it's going to be at about level 1. After about a month, you'll hit level 2. And 2 months, you can hit level 3.
Okay, yeah, I was just looking at mine and it says 0.8, and then it won't let me review. Well, it will, but it calls me an overachiever and it tells me to come back in 6 hours. So
yes, because here's the deal. Cerigo is set up based on our current understanding of how the brain learns. And you can review things over and over again, and it's going to get really solid into your short-term memory, but we want it to be in long-term memory. So when you're at level 1, you're going to remember the information for days. And so what Cerigo does is after about a day or so, it'll say, hey, you can come back and review this because it's about when you're going to start forgetting.
okay.
Because your brain to hold on to it even longer. Won't advance your levels. Questions? Other questions about Cerigo?
This isn't about Cerigo. I just, have you taken attendance yet? I was a little bit late. The traffic was terrible out there.
Oh, yes, I'm sure that it was. I'm kind of doing it as I go along.
Okay.
So, yes, I've got you on there now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the drive home. It's going to be. But on my weather app, it said it was going to rain. That's what I get for not watching the news. So. Other questions? Tell you what, I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint, and if you do have questions, let me know. And yes, I am recording this, and I'm going to post this. Plus, I recorded my Wednesday class, which was the equivalent of your Tuesday. So we should have both of those up by the end of the day tomorrow. Okay. All right. I'm covering questions. I always do that at the beginning of class. Any questions you have, like in this situation about Cerigo, about the introduction to mastering microbiology versus the dynamic study that you'll find in the study aids. So answering those questions, unfortunately, those answers did not get recorded. And then we're going to go into time management, In other words, we're going to go through why I'm having you do the weeks 2 schedule. Okay. And then we're going to talk about study skills. Okay. And I'm going to give you some helpful hints. And then we're going to talk about what to do for next Tuesday. Okay. All right. So of any other questions that you may have? Especially since this week we're getting used to Blackboard and getting used to how I've set up the course. Let me know and I'll back up. Oh, yes. Here is my things I always forget to tell people at the beginning of the semester. First off, in my opinion, there are no stupid questions. I'm okay with questions, and I'm okay with different people asking the same question more than once. And works is by repetition. So the first time we hear something, we hear it, and then it's the old in one ear and out the other. That's just how the brain works. And then it stays in the brain a little bit longer before it gets dumped out of your short-term memory. So 3 times I was like, oh, okay, now it's staying, it's not immediately being dumped from my short-term memory. So I'm okay with people asking questions more than once, and I'm okay with people asking questions. I really don't think that there's any stupid questions. Answer. Especially starting next week. We're going to do some practice runs today, but especially starting next week, I'm going to be asking you questions, and we're going to be working through some really hard questions, the word problems of microbiology. And this is practice for the test. And when we're practicing, we're not going to get it right the first time. At least I don't. And so it's okay to give the wrong answers. It's okay to not be perfect, at the beginning. So it's okay if you think badly of you. And it's just part of practice. We don't make the basket the first time, especially when we're practicing. Okay. All right. So let us go on. Oh, and then here are some things that, some prompts, and you asked about all of these things. So good. Time management. Okay. Now, all of this information is for the average student. When we're talking about populations, we have what is called a bell curve. Most people fit within this average part. There's going to be folks on either side of the bell curve. Okay. So this information is going to apply to most people, but if it doesn't, that's okay. That's okay. Expect to spend approximately 7.5 hours for this class, okay, per week. And that's based on some research that people have done, okay? And so that's about, okay, we're going to spend about 2.5 hours in class, okay, remotely. And then that would be 5 hours on independent work, like working on assignments, studying, that kind of thing, okay? So that's what you should kind of budget, at least to start out with. It may be that you've had all sorts of biology courses, and especially at the beginning, you're not going to need to spend as much time. It may be that this is your first science class, and you may need to spend more time, especially at the beginning, okay? So if you have concerns about any of this, let me know. Let's see, I'm going to end the show, and I'm going to, let me get, I'm over here. Come on. Go. We're going to come over here, and I'm going to show you the example that I have for the week 2 schedule that I have. that is due tomorrow. Down here, and this will be a good review of where you can find things. So you go to the week 1 folder, and I had clicked on lectures and assignments, and that pulled this up, and I scrolled down to the week 1 folder, and I click on that. Now, over here in week 1 assignments, we have the week 2 schedule. This is the directions. Come on. Just either Blackboard is really slow, or I am just not clicking well enough. Okay. So here are the directions, and it's good to read through the directions. And if we wait long enough, my directions will pop up. And then a blank Excel file that I want you to fill out. Oh, this is the example. If you go to the one before this, that's the blank one. So this, anyway, let's scroll down and I'll blow it up big so that you can see pretty much the entire thing. Come on. Let's get it where I can click on it. Thinking about it, thinking about it. Okay, this is a proposed, this is how I would fill it out if I were taking this lecture in the lab. Okay, so you want to put sleep in. They've done studies, and if you don't get enough sleep, it affects your learning. Okay, and you're going, yeah, right, that's never going to happen. Everybody needs different levels of sleep too. Okay. And so I exercise in and, eating, that kind of thing, basic hygiene. Okay. And here is where, and I've color coded it. Okay. And here's where I have stuff for the class. Okay. Now, when I grade this, I'm going to be looking for, here's what I'm mainly going to be looking for. If you put not getting any sleep during the week, it's like, yeah, you should put sleep in sometime. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for just basic things like that. And by the way, I'm not going to judge. And then I do want to see that you have 7.5 hours for the lecture and that you have 2.5 hours set up for lab. Okay. It's 2.5 hours. I'm going to have to go back and look. So anyway, and I want, at least for the class, I want enough detail. Okay. So that, if you were using this for next week, you'd know what you were doing. So for example, on Monday, start CWI for the week, read the chapter, write down questions. I have attending class. I have attending, a study session, if I set up a, if I were in a study group, which by the way, it's a good thing to set up study groups. CWI watch recorded lectures. Okay, so does that kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking for? So this is, like I said, it's a time management thing. I do something similar to this before each semester, and that's how I figure out when my office hours are going to be. That's when I figure out, when in the world I'm going to get exercise in. The minor things, Oh, that is the example. If we back this up, let me move your pictures. If you back it up, that's where I have the directions and the blank. So here's the blank one, okay? And I don't have it set up so that you can fill it out as it is in Blackboard. You do have to download it. Have it under a new title, fill it out, and then you will be submitting it in Blackboard, okay? Questions about that? Just so I can show you, that was the directions. Here's the example. See if this freaks Blackboard out. wasn't on this other page yet, so why are you trying to get me to advance? To do it? And here's where you will submit it. Any questions about that? Well, now I can't. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about study categories, specifically Bloom's categories of learning. Bloom was a levels of learning. And then, you know, when we instructors and professors set up tests and to try to follow Bloom's categories. So what are those categories? Okay, so the first level, okay, is you have to remember the information. If it's new information coming in, you have to remember it, okay? So we also call this memorization. So Sarah Go helps you with this, helps you learn the terms. Now, the next thing is understanding. Once you remember something, then you move from remembering to understanding, okay? It's kind of like when you're learning a language, you can memorize lists of vocabulary, but then when you have to stop and think and translate, you know, you're still in remembering. When you get to the point where it's like, oh, C means yes, or I don't even have to think C means yes. I just know, oh, C, you know. This is an example on a test would be for remembering would be if I put a definition straight out of Sarah Go on the exam, and then you would pick out the term, or put the term and then you pick out the definition straight out of Sarah Go. If I take the definition and I change it up and reword it, that's an understanding question, okay? Because I've taken it and I'm checking to see, okay, do you remember it and do you understand it? Okay, do you recognize it in a new setting? Do you recognize it with new wording? Okay. All right, and then application and analysis. Okay, that's where it starts getting tricky. Okay, not intentionally tricky, but this takes a little more effort to get to application and analysis. Okay, so generally you have to connect different bits of information. Okay, so information from different parts of the chapter, or as we go on, taking information from previous chapters and connecting it to what you're learning right now. Okay, and taking what you know and applying it to a new situation. That's when you are taking the test and you go, this wasn't in the book. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Yeah. So we're going to practice this kind of thing, you know, and also analyzing data. If I give you a table or a chart, being able to look at it and draw conclusions from the presented data. Okay. But we're going to practice in class these harder styles of questions so that you get used to doing it. To the exam, it won't seem so awful. Okay. And let's take a look at Bloom's in another scenario. We often show it like this. You start at the base of the pyramid with remembering. Once you remember, then you can move on to understanding and comprehension. And from there, you can move to apply and analyze. Except if you learn how to analyze and apply, you understand it and you remember it better. So it isn't necessarily going straight up the pyramid. Okay, so Sarah Go will help you with remembering, okay, and understanding. I have as assignments throughout the semester, I'm going to have some case studies that will help you practice understanding, applying, and analyzing. Okay. And then I also have some practice quizzes that I have written the questions. Okay. They are application and analysis questions most of the time. And so you get practice answering questions that I've written. Okay. It won't be the same ones as on the test, but you'll get an idea of, you know, how my brain works. Okay. And then with the exams, I'm going to be looking at remembering, understanding, applying, and analyzing. Okay. It'll mainly be remembering and understanding comprehension. It'd be about 3/4 of the test will be in this category. And then about 1/4 of the test is going to be these harder style of questions. Okay. All right. Any questions about balloons and that kind of thing? Something, feel free to ask, and I'm happy to back things up. Okay, in this PowerPoint, which I'm going to post, I have this lovely table that I found that goes over how to study for the different kinds of questions. Okay, so for remembering, you know, you would list characteristics, you'd set up flashcards. Okay, draw, classify, match items. Okay. Comprehension would be describing things in your own words and providing examples, being able to describe a biological process without copying it from the book. You know, you have the book closed, and you can see if you can still draw it out. Okay. And then application, you know, that would be reviewing each process you've learned and then ask yourself, what would happen if you increased this or decreased this? We do this in the sciences all the time. We do this in medicine. You know, we've got a patient that has high blood sugar and we say, hey, what would happen if we injected them with more insulin? Okay. That kind of thing. Well, you inject them with more insulin, that's going to lower their blood sugar, but you don't want to do too much. Okay. I call a macroscopic example that you're probably already familiar with. All right, any questions? Check to see how we're doing on time. Well, not too. Oh, I didn't put my arrows up. Okay, before we leave study skills, I did want to go over some definitions. Okay. Passive study versus active study. Passive study is, it works, but it takes longer. It's kind of like if I'm in the gym and I'm on the treadmill and I'm on a level treadmill, I'm not getting much benefit from that as if I raise it onto the incline and take it back down and raise it on the incline, interval training. Okay. So for the brain, it works the same way. If you read something over and over again, eventually you will remember it, but it takes longer. Whereas if you do the mental equivalent of interval training, then you're going to remember it faster for longer. Okay. So repetition, repetition, repetition. Okay. So on average, and this is once again the average, on average with information that is brand new, you need 6 repetitions to remember it. Okay. And so oftentimes we get frustrated when we're learning something brand.
I lost audio. I don't know if that was anybody else. I've seen I also have lost
Yeah, I
audio.
lost audio too.
Okay.
Yeah, I did too. I can hear everybody but Teresa.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
I feel like that's the most important person to hear right now.
It's the
I
only
agree,
person to
Isaac.
hear.
Yeah, that's a pretty smart assumption.
Mhm.
Wait, Mitchell, you're in my class?
And she just keeps talking, I think.
Wait, Teresa,
Been in
can you
here.
hear us?
My phone's
can
not
hear
working
you.
right now, so
Um,
I did not get your
Even
text.
your like little square thing, like when someone's talking, it's like green, but for me, your little like square is white. So I don't know. I don't know what that
Mine's
means.
white
Oh.
as well, so I
Oh,
I
now
lost
she's
her as
gone.
well.
Okay.
She's just completely gone.
Oh my
She's
God, who's in
gone.
charge? Isaac, you're in charge.
Who's the one with the Panda Express card?
That's Isaac.